Please welcome Robbie Robertson. How are you? Pleasure. Good to see you. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm very good, and I'm feeling good just being back in my homeland here and visiting with everybody. Just great. I mean, the Junos were terrific, and then we've got this Songwriters Hall of Fame thing coming up this weekend, and
soon you're going to actually get your Order of Canada, aren't you? Which you were awarded years ago.
I was awarded a couple of years ago, but at that time, just the scheduling of when they were doing it and what I was doing and everything didn't match up. So I'm coming back next month, and I'm going to go to Ottawa.
That's pretty interesting, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that, and they also are putting me on a stamp in Canada. You know, I mean, there's a lot of these things, and I'm so grateful for all of it, but I did not see that one coming.
Yeah. That's cool. Usually that happens after you die, man.
Well, I didn't want to put it that way, but in the United States, I think that you have to be dead to be on a stamp. So I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, let's not hurry up.
Think of and I'm sure you've taken a moment to reflect about this, but you know, the story that I've heard you tell about your family and your mother when they said, you know, when you come to Toronto, don't tell anybody, if you don't have to, that you're Indian at that time, using the words. Think of that kid is now on a stamp. That's quite a journey.
And now I can talk about it,
yeah.
I guess. Yeah, when my mom was growing up on the Six Nation Indian Reserve, it was a period that the schools they went to, it was really trying to dismiss and just wash away the Indianness. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I mean, when we think about it now, it just seems so horrible and just distasteful and everything. So her mother died when she was quite young, and she was sent to live in Toronto with her aunt then. And before she left, they, you know, it was like, well, good luck and everything, and just remember, be proud that you're an Indian, but be careful who you tell. And so then she passed that on to me, but the times had changed then too, so it wasn't like I had to really think about, I wonder if they'll let me in here, you know, but for her, it was a reality.
Well, and you know, through the course of your career, people can hear you being personal and storytelling, but on this particular record, the new one, you seem to be a little bit more overt than you have been, and a little bit more direct about your own personal life, and you're not hiding some of it with metaphor. Is that, how did you get to a place at this stage of your life where you're like, I'm just going to tell you what I think now?
Well, you know, I never thought of that it was hiding, but maybe it was. But first of all, when I was writing songs for the guys in the band, and I didn't want to come in and say, well, guys, here's another fascinating song about me, you know, that we're going to do. You know what I mean? It was just like, I just wasn't comfortable with that at all. And so I was, and this is another thing that comes from the Six Nations too, that when I thought, when I grow up, I want to be a storyteller like these elders are. They tell these stories and it just gives me chills, and I want to be in that club someday. And it was part of, it's something that I could see, you know, it's somehow in my future. And when I came to songs, the idea of being able to write a mythology based on real things, to invent fictional characters that are based on real things. And of course, in this kind of thing, there's always a lot of personal stuff in there anyway. But now with this record, I could have called this, Here's What Happened.
Yeah, you sure could have. And so, that's when you told us the story of Here's What Happened. How long were you telling yourself that story of Here's What Happened?
Like, well, I was there, so I didn't have to tell it.
Were you dealing with it, or had you sort of put it away for a while before you hadn't addressed it for a while?
You know, and how I got to this place on this record is a bit mysterious to me, because I never sat down and said, okay, now we're going to open the book and I'm going to spill the beans, or you know, it was nothing like that at all. In the songwriting experience, a lot of times you just have a little piece of an idea or a piece of music or something, and you start following that path and you see where it's going to take you. And if it keeps inviting you in, you keep going in that direction. And that's one of the great things about songwriting too, is the discovery process. And that's what the case was in this, that I was just following the path, and I wasn't really thinking, oh boy, this is opening up. It never dawned on me like that until I had written most of the album and recorded most of it, and then I started to think, oh, wow, this is feeling very comfortable, and even almost a sense of release in a way.
It's like a long time passed between the last record to this record.
Right.
Did you ever get to a point where you thought, maybe I'm not gonna
ever make a record again? I wasn't thinking that I had to make a record again. I was thinking, when that comes up, I'll know that feeling, and I will go in that direction, but only if I'm inspired and I feel a real passion to do it.
When you revisited this, what I was curious about, did you think about the breakup of the band, and like when you actually had a chance to do it, did you think about your role in the end of the band, and how do you reflect upon that time?
My role in that, this was 5 men making a decision. It wasn't my decision. And whatever happened, it would happen because of every one of us. And if one of those pistons wasn't working perfectly, everything was off kilter. So I feel a tremendous sadness about certain things, and some things you just have no control over, and you have to, go with it.
Yeah, and the culture sort of laid a lot of the end of that band at your feet over the last couple of decades. Do you feel that that's been fair?
In what sense?
Well, just that you were the one that didn't want to do this anymore, that after the last waltz, the last waltz was it for you, and that the rest of the band wanted to keep going, and you're the guy who said no.
Well, that's not exactly what happened. After the last waltz, the idea was that everybody was going to take a step back, gather themselves, we were going to get refocused, and we were going to come back and do some great creative work together. And so everybody went off and did some individual projects just to shuffle the deck, and nobody came back. And at some point you have to say, I've just got to read the writing on the wall here, and whether it's that the passion is gone or that direction is gone, I don't know, but it is what it is.
Is there sadness in that for you because of what you had? I mean, the really neat dynamic between you and Levon was spectacular. And then years of, now I don't know if this is true, but years have painted the story that you guys aren't even friends or weren't friends. And I thought, how sad that must be for you to make art with somebody like that and then to be a rift.
Yeah, I don't carry that around with me. I have nothing but great admiration and love for Garth and Levon, and I miss Rick and Richard terribly. They're my brothers. So I carry this in a very fond place in my heart, and I loved working with those guys and would do anything with them again at the drop of a pin.
There's a bunch of rapid-fire questions I'd like to ask you. What's the first word that pops into your head when you think Canada?
Home.
What's the best band in Canadian music right now?
Arcade Fire.
What's the most underrated act in music today?
Autolux.
It's a great band.
Yeah.
Do people fully understand the genius of Daniel Lanois?
They will.
You were in a movie with Gary Busey, what, 30 years ago. Was he the same guy then that we see now?
He was learning. He was getting there. Yeah.
Canada Post, that stamp you talked about, it's going to be a 57-cent stamp for Robbie Robertson. Should it cost more than 57 cents to be able to lick you? Is that weird?
Sounds fair to me.
What makes you cry?
Music.
Anything in particular that always makes you...
I just love a great sad song.
Yeah. What's the saddest song you've heard lately?
Oh, the saddest song lately. I don't know if I have a great collection of lately sad songs. Lately, they're more fun, and, but years ago when you would hear a song like When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge, it just tears your heart out, in the most beautiful way.
Your old buddy Dylan introduced everybody on his radio show to a song called I Drink by Mary Gauthier, which is one of the saddest songs ever. And you were on that first tour when he went electric. Did you ever get really pissed off at his fans for not getting it?
Well, there was times when he would get pissed off. I'm not sure that we really understood this formality at the time. We played all over North America, all over Australia, all over Europe, and people booed us and threw things at us every night. And all I can say is it builds character.
Yeah. And you know what? Looking back in retrospect, they were wrong.
Yeah.
They were profoundly wrong.
We did a tour a few years after that, and we did exactly the same thing. And everybody said, I knew it all along. This is the stuff. And we knew better than that, but it was quite a feeling to think that the world revolved and changed and we didn't change. Mm-hmm. And then you realize that you were part of a musical revolution.
What's the first album you ever bought?
Little Richard's album on Specialty, and at that time, it was called Here's Little Richard. You,
post Last Waltz, you have not toured. You've played some one-offs. You said you'd never tour again. Will you tour this record?
I won't tour with it, but I will do support of this record because it was just one of the greatest musical experiences of my life, and I cannot do anything but want to wave that flag.
For sure. The record is called How to Become Clairvoyant. It's Robbie Robertson, everybody. Good to see you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Pleasure. Stroumboulopoulos.com's the website. We'll see you next time.